What's going on, everybody? Well, we are in there. We are live. I'm going to go ahead and mute the music, and we're going to go ahead and get into this. I'm not going to be here with you guys for too long. Probably about an hour is the idea, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm excited to be with you guys, and welcome to Media Ministry Monday. My goal is to really connect with media ministers from all over the world. And so if that's you, this is the place to be, to just have a conversation about what happened this weekend, to have a conversation about your goals, where you want to grow, how you can grow. I am a media consultant, and I primarily focus on working with smallish ministries, right? So that could be anywhere from 5 to 200 in some cases. And so I just want to see you be equipped. That's the goal. And as we get started, my first question to you, and I got all kind of stuff going on here. Let me pull up my slides here. The question is, where are you from? All right. So tell me in the chat, where are you from? And I'm going to try to pull this up so I can see what we got going on here. All right. And so for me, I am from Kansas City. I am a Kansas Cityan through and through. I'm not going to talk much about football, but if you know, you know. And as I have grown, I have shifted to a new city. I am in Atlanta now, right outside of Atlanta, in a small town, and I'm excited to be here. Excited to connect with people. Excited to be near a big airport and be able to travel and get connected wherever I need to go. And the goal is going to be to really connect with people. And so the question I have for you is, where are you from? What city, what state, what country? Where are you from is what I want to know. All right. And as we continue on, you can put that in there anytime that you jump in. That's important to me as we consider this, because my goal is to connect with all the nations of the world. And so we've got a lot of people that are following from the United States, obviously, but then there's others that are following from Indonesia, from United Kingdom, from Peru. And so I would love to hear from you as we have this conversation here today. And so, as I said, this is for Media Ministries. And my name is Garry B. Jr., by the way. I am who I said. I am a media consultant. I am a documentary filmmaker. I am a solutionist. I like to make things simple. I'm a trainer. And I enjoy this space of working with media volunteers, media leaders in ministry. So the next question I would have for you guys is, what role do you play in your ministry? I know for years I served in ministries as a media volunteer, and that went from anything from taking pictures to working the live stream. Because once COVID hit, in a small church the smallest churches I attended, we didn't do any live streaming, right? The closest thing would be we might have a guest from out of town, and they would want to do something on Zoom, or we would live stream for them to go to YouTube or something to their network. But typically, our service was including the music that was going to be happening in-house, the microphones in-house for the speaker, slides potentially, scriptures for sure, and that was pretty much it. And then COVID happened in America, and what happened is everything for me shifted to where ministries that I work with were not equipped to really handle the live streaming aspect, and so things started to bloom with Facebook, with Zoom was a big deal. You guys know, like I said, and this is a worldwide pandemic, so those that are in other countries were even impacted in maybe a similar way. And so since then, the media ministry service and equipping that I do now involves a lot of connecting with ministries to help make sure their cameras and their live streams are good to go, right? And that might be setting them up on StreamYard, setting them up on Restream, setting them up with a YOLO box or a Switcher or whatever, Switcher Studio. And so there's a lot of different things that come into play and a lot of different roles to play. So if you were if you were a photographer, you were in the media team and you were taking pictures, and then COVID hit, there's a lot that changes in your world to where you may now be asked to help navigate and manage a computer that's just set aside just for the live stream, or to help manage the chat room on social media. So those kind of things play a part to me that we have to consider. And the question I have for you is, what role do you play in your ministry as it pertains to media? And this is a big deal because as a media volunteer, a media person, the role is very simple. And in my mind, we'll talk more about that later. And so let's talk more about how'd you start? How'd you start in media ministry? I would love to see in the chat. Put in there what got you started in media ministry in terms of whether you're a volunteer, whether you're a paid staff member. What is it that did you like? Do you like video cameras? Do you like live production? Do you like taking pictures? What is it that you like? Sound? Are you a sound musician? Are you a worship leader? What role and how did you start? For me, it is hard to believe, but I started because I felt like I just got volunteered and I was just willing to help. I really like technology. I've always been drawn to technology, and I'm referring to my notes over here. So if you see me looking off, that's all it is. I had actually attended a fellowship or a church where it was a musical family that was the leadership, and the pastor actually had his own production company. And so I learned a lot from him, and what he taught me about soundboards and sound and running cables and stuff like that was invaluable. And it really just piqued my interest because I started to enjoy and understand, because before I was thrown into it, I was just in there just trying to make sure we got no feedback, and I didn't want to have somebody get too loud. I didn't want it to be too quiet, and that was it. But then I started learning how to manage live with the worship team and make sure to manage the volume and the equalizer and things like that. And then also how to route different things to certain speakers. That was a big deal. They would say, I want more in the monitors, and I didn't have a clue how to do that when I first started. But that experience gave me the confidence to say, okay, this is how to manage that for someone that asks for more out of the monitors. And we, at that ministry, that fellowship, that happened a lot. People would come in and they wanted to hear themselves loud in the monitors. And it was just a really cool setup because they had some, to me at the time, and even still, they just had high-tech audio equipment. Like they had so many instruments. They had organs and pianos and keyboards and drums and bass guitars and all this stuff. And that was something that was pretty unique for a ministry in that smallish realm, at least in the way I grew up. And you didn't see that very often, but I got to manage all that on a soundboard, and not knowing what to do or how to do it, I really grew a lot. And so my question is, how'd you get started? How'd you start in ministry? What would you say are your media strengths in terms of you serving in the ministry that you're in and the role that you play? What are your strengths? Are you really good at understanding how cameras work, how to use an ATEM switcher, microphones and sound are your thing? What is it? I would love to hear from you in the chat, because when it's all said and done, those strengths are what give you confidence to really go forward and do something productive for the ministry, and then learn something new, because it's kind of like a gateway. It opens the door for you to get involved, and then you can learn something new, right? And so for me, my strength really was just willingness to learn. I think I really liked cameras. I never had a camera, never understood how they worked this was 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I didn't know anything about cameras. I shifted and grown. What's going on? Holy Mark in the house. How you doing? So we've been talking about media ministry. This is Media Monday. We're trying something new, trying to figure out what it's the best way to connect with media volunteers. And I love to connect with media volunteers. So Holy Mark, tell us where you're from, what country, state, city, whatever it is. You can even shout out to your ministry if you want to. And what role do you play, if any, in media ministry, right? What role do you play in the media ministry at your fellowship, if any? All right. And so going back to my strengths, I developed a strength for video, right? I ended up buying, this was back in 2006, 2007. I bought an Apple MacBook Pro. Back then they had they had a black one, they had a white one. And my wife ended up getting a white laptop. I had a black laptop. Now, we didn't have the money to afford it. We just bought it all on credit cards, unfortunately. So it wasn't a wise choice. But that aside, I ended up exploring everything about this computer because I had never had a Mac computer before. My brother's from Uganda. What's going on? What's going on? Good to hear from you. Like I said, tell me what role you play, if any, in media ministry at your church, at your fellowship. I want to connect with media volunteers and really equip. So if you got questions, you can put them in here. We've been doing a lot of videos on FreeShow. I'm working on some videos about soundboards and sound, and also cameras. Have been some other things that we're going to focus on to help really give confidence to be a well-rounded media volunteer, because you don't know sometimes where you might need to fill in. All right. And so my other strength, going back to the topic down below, is my strength was I was able to learn quickly. And so technology came easy. So I got that MacBook. It had a program on there called GarageBand. Not a musician. Have no clue about how music works or anything like that. Never played an instrument in my life. Never sang a note on key. And if I did, I didn't know it because I know so little about music. But the thing that I liked was it also had a program called iMovie. And so before I ever had a camera, I had this video editing program called iMovie. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved it because I could record videos from my friend's camcorder, and I could import those into my computer and then edit them. I never took a video editing lesson in my life. I don't know if YouTube was real popular back then, but I'm sure I had to look at something, maybe looking at the Apple support page or something, on how to use this program and make videos with it. I was working in corporate America, so I started making videos for my team. I was on a training team, and we had some fun making some fun videos. And I just really drew to the video stuff and doing interviews and working with cameras ultimately. So that was my biggest strength, is my willingness and quickness to learn. All right. So my brother said he's in Uganda, Africa, Kampala, and I probably mispronounced that, so forgive me. Work in a church called Rehoboth Christian Fellowship Church, Masindi, and you work on the live stream and on FreeShow to present the lyrics. That's excellent, excellent. So what would you say are your biggest strengths? What got you involved in media ministry to get to the live stream support with FreeShow and using lyrics and things like that? And secondly, when did you switch to, or when did you learn about FreeShow? Because I just found out about FreeShow like in December of 2024. And I was confused as to how something like this could be so great and be available for free. That was a big deal to me because I'd heard about ProPresenter, but never used it before because I didn't have, it wasn't in the budget for any of the ministries I was a part of. And I use free programs. And one of my favorite was OpenLP. Still a great program. Very simple, easy to use. So that's what I liked about it. And it allowed people to really learn it quickly. And I think FreeShow is the same way. You can learn it quickly if it is a clear understanding of what the ministry wants to accomplish, right? So once you find out about FreeShow is my question. For me, December 2024, and I've loved it ever since. So the next question I have is, what areas can you improve the most when it comes to being a media ministry volunteer? And these are things that I'm having this discussion, but it's something that you will need to have with your team, right? If you're a team leader or if you're just a volunteer, you got to ask yourself these questions, ask the team these questions, because I'm sure they've come up and you can actually use this to make your team stronger. It also helps improve just the ministry overall. I'm sure your leadership would really appreciate, in terms of your pastors, the teachers in the church, whoever the leadership is, they're going to appreciate you all growing together, understanding your strengths and weaknesses, and then working on ways to improve with some cross training or whatever it is, right? And so where and what areas can you improve the most? For me, it will probably be understanding like music. I have no idea what a chord is, and I know that's probably hard to believe to you worship leaders that work and serve in that hybrid role of doing media stuff as well. I worked in another ministry where the worship leader, he was an expert at the ProPresenter and the media software and navigating the lyrics and putting in the chords and the verses in the right place and all that kind of stuff. So it's an interesting dynamic depending on how you got involved with media ministry, right? So for me, I came in with camera ideas. And so years ago, it wasn't a lot that I did in media ministry that involved cameras because most of the churches I attended didn't have cameras. So it was mostly, I was reduced to using a soundboard, and I understood how to use that effectively. Still not knowing anything about music, but I knew how knobs worked, and the technology of it was real simple to me, which is great. My man Holy Mark, he says, I learned FreeShow from me. I'm flattered and still learning, just don't know how to connect NDI. Let's see, those words to be on our YouTube. Got you. So how to connect FreeShow using NDI. Give me some more understanding of what you mean, Holy Mark, because what I can do is I'll have to shift my screens around it and really navigate and show some and answer some of those questions. But don't know to connect NDI. Still learning, I don't know to connect NDI to the words to be on our YouTube. That's a good question. How to use NDI. So we'll talk about that. As we continue. Areas that you can improve. Like I said, for me, probably music, understanding music and things like that. And then also learning more of the facets of the ministry, right? What role does this media stuff play to really improve other areas of the ministry, right? Is there a way that I can intermingle, like Holy Mark is saying about using NDI? Is there a way I can make the live stream scroll the ways that people can give, or scroll the way that people can get prayer? Those kind of things are important to me. And so probably I would say to intermingle the media with every other part of the ministry, right? Whether it's youth ministry or whatever, like maybe it's training the youth pastor or teaching the youth pastor how to use their own FreeShow program and projector or monitor to teach the young people, something along those lines. Those things would be, I think, ideal for people to be able to improve. All right. And then the biggest thing is, what is your goal? When you've started on this journey, things change, the ministry goals change, the vision change, or the mission may change, but the vision usually stays the same. As a media volunteer, my goal is to be invisible. When I am on the scene, whether I'm supporting a church that I fellowship at or that I'm just associated with and they brought me in as a consultant, my goal is to be invisible, right? I want to be a media ninja, and I'm there, but you never see me, right? Whether I'm taking a picture, I'm shooting a video, whether I have a setup for a FreeShow and running the live stream, whatever it is, I don't want people to know that I'm there, right? I don't want them to know that there's somebody behind the scenes pushing the buttons because everything is so smooth. That's the goal, is that I want to make the sound seamless. I want the lyrics to show up seamlessly. I don't want them looking back saying, can you switch to the next slide, please? Right? Or if there's dancers there, I don't want them to be waiting saying, can you go ahead and play the music, right? I want you to be invisible just as much as I want to be invisible as a media volunteer, even on staff. You want to make sure that you're seamless and integrated into the service, right? And so those things are where we can find areas to focus our attention to grow. And so like my brother Holy Mark, he's saying, hey, I want to grow in understanding FreeShow and NDI. He's already started using it to run the lyrics, which is great. Now the question is, how do we take it to the next level to say, okay, there's some benefit possibly in us accomplishing our goal if we understood NDI, right? We can accomplish our goal better if we understood FreeShow, or if we understood how to get a digital soundboard, if we understood how to use an ATEM switcher or whatever it may be, right? And so as a media volunteer, as a media ministry person, it is so important to continue to improve and learn new things. And that's what my channel, the goal is all about, is to really help find ways to bridge those gaps of understanding where we might find ourselves. And that's where you guys' questions are so important. So I'm going to jump into the question time. So let's talk about, let me shift here and let's talk about some of the questions you guys had as I switch my screen. And so the question had to do with connecting NDI. There's a lot of ways you can do this, a lot of ways I can consider it. And I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see. I need to go to my settings on my computer and reset this because I got it on green screen. And as I do that, feel free to answer some of those other questions about areas where your strengths are, where your areas of improvement are, and just being honest. I know this is not something you typically expect from a technology channel or YouTube channel, but my goal is to really find ways that we can be better. Find ways that we can be better. All right, let's see. I am going to go to here and I'm going to turn that off. And I'm going to make it mirror my main display. All right, so let's talk more about this idea of NDI. All right, so with NDI, it's a lot of different things to understand with it, and this is just my screen that you guys can see here. So this is my FreeShow app running. I customized it to have the blue theme to it, so I like that theme. But NDI works in a number of different ways, and it interacts with a number of different things depending on what else is running NDI, right? So you got to have two different things that can communicate with NDI for it to fully be effective, right? So YOLOBox, for example, they just came out with an update on the YOLOBox Pro that allows it to receive an NDI signal, all right? It could be a receiver, and it can add that as a separate screen in the YOLOBox Pro. I think the YOLOBox Ultra has it. The YOLOBox Pro, you got to pay like $100 or something to activate it officially. But the other places that you might find NDI is just on another computer, right? So you can actually have two computers in the ministry and have one of them sending a signal from FreeShow, and then the other one receiving it with an NDI tools downloaded, right? So NDI tools you can download for free. And I would definitely check that out. Let me see if I can find a link to that real quick, and I'll put that in the chat, because that to me is key if you're going to use it with a computer, or even if you're going to use it like with OBS. That's a way to do it as well. Let me do NDI tools. All right, so I'm going to put this into the chat because it is key. All right, so first things first, you're doing a great work. Is there a way of having a lyric slide with a looping video background? Y'all got the fun questions. I love it. Uniquest Media, thanks for jumping in, man. Tell me where you're from. I'm going to get to your question, too, because that's a great question. All right. So, and I understand, Holy Mark, most churches I work with, they probably can't afford a YOLOBox, especially in the international level. I don't even know if it makes a lot of sense, but I use it because it's portable, and as a consultant, it comes in handy, right? If you're going to be sitting and having a consistent setup, you really don't need something like a YOLOBox, because you can do everything from a computer using FreeShow and the live streaming setup from YouTube, or live streaming setup from Facebook or something like that. You can just use that with OBS or something along those lines, right? And so with NDI, you can download NDI tools to get a receipt, to put it on any computer. I would put it on every computer you've got, and you can actually make any one of those computers be an NDI monitor, all right? So where they can actually receive the NDI signal that you set up for it to receive. FreeShow comes in handy because with FreeShow, you can set it up to send out. So I go to the settings, I can go to outputs, and I can turn on NDI on any of my outputs, right? And so I can go to this one, which is my stream output, is what I call it. And it's just my lower third. So it looks like this, right? With an invisible everything else. It's what I used earlier in the first part of this video, of this live stream. I used it to just put my lower thirds in, all right? And so that's the stream. I have NDI on. If I open up, let me do a search for NDI monitor. All right, so I got NDI video monitor app. When I open it up, it says it's blank. There's nothing there. You have to tell it what to look for. So I can go to NDI up here in the top window, and then it says Gary's MacBook Pro. That's me. I can select to show the NDI stage, the NDI stream, and I can pick either one. So I can say I want to show the NDI stream, and boom. Now imagine if I were on another computer. I literally can do this exact same thing as long as they're on the same network. Now, you can't be in two separate sides of the world to do it, right? You can't do that with some hardware, but not with just this software, all right? And so the question you would have is, okay, what computer do I need for this to work right and to show up on YouTube? You might say, okay, I want to have it for YouTube. It really depends on if you got two computers. So if you got two computers, one of them is the streaming computer, that makes a lot of sense. And so I might say, okay, I don't want this. I want to have the actual output, right? So let me click in here and I'm gonna turn on my output. My primary is off, but I can turn NDI on, all right? And so now when I go to the NDI monitor, I'm gonna change it. I'm gonna go to NDI and it's not showing up yet. It's disabled, so let me enable it. I'm gonna make it be an invisible window so it doesn't cover up everything. All right, so I've activated my main output and it looks like this. All right, just a solid yellow background. So now if I go here to NDI, hover over, and now I've got 3 different options to pick from. I got my primary, which is what I was just changing. And so now this is showing my slides. It's that simple. And that's NDI working. So this is running over my network that I have. So they're on the same Wi-Fi. Okay, this is the same computer, but NDI is running over the Wi-Fi of the local network. You can do hardwired networks or whatever you want, but it will give you this signal on any computer you want that has this NDI video monitor tool that's completely free. And you can actually connect that computer to your YouTube stream and it'll stream whatever shows up, right? So if I go to my shows and I want to show another show, so let's go to this meeting here, all right? So I switch and I go to this show. Guess what's going to show up on my NDI monitor? That show, all right? And so it literally will shift with you as you start showing lyrics and things like that on your live stream. It'll show up right there, all right? So that's how the NDI works. It's got to have a place or a signal that's being sent. FreeShow can be your sending signal, and then you got to have some device to receive that signal. That device could be your phone or your tablet. It doesn't matter. All right, you can do that. And so that would be my idea of how to use NDI, and then connecting it to the words to be on our YouTube. You would say, okay, I have a separate computer that's running FreeShow. I got another computer that's actually managing our live stream, and that computer is the one that's doing the live stream. That's the way I would say that NDI would work best. I've used it with ministries in that way, where we had to have somebody running the slides for the scriptures to look them up real time, and somebody running the soundboard, and then we had somebody else running the live stream, right? And the person running the live stream was also switching the cameras, and they were just making sure they were getting a signal from NDI and a ATEM switcher to their computer, all right? And so let's see here. Is there a way of having the lyrics slide with a looping video background? All right, so we'll look at that. And let's see here. Unique is from Zambia. My brother, good to see you. Lovely place. Y'all should visit. Hey, I would love to. I haven't been to Zambia yet, but I've been with a group that went there. It had to be 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years. But I went to Kenya, and I got to go to Kakamega and Mombasa and Nairobi. So I got to go to 3 different cities in Kenya, and so that was fun. And like I said, we were in your neighborhood of sorts compared to coming from America. I was definitely in your neighborhood, but not quite there in Zambia yet. So I look forward to it one day. And then I got my man YWT Stewart. Shout out from the Netherlands. I'm trying to switch between more efficiently between scriptures and images. Okay. I love it. I love it. So let's talk about this looping lyrics slides with or playing lyric slides with a looping video background. Okay. And my question to you, Unique, is have you tried this before? Because I'm thinking about it. Let me do a new show. I'm going to go to, let's see which one. Let's do Media Monday, and I'm going to do a new section. We'll call this Q&A. And then I'm going to go to shows, and I'm going to just do a new show. And so one of the things I've learned from me about FreeShow is I like to keep it simple, right? So Whenever I'm doing something new, I want to make a new show for it to support that. All right. And so I've got an empty slideshow here, or the empty slide. That's fine. So let's go back to show. And the best way I know to do that is to have, let's get some lyrics up first. So let's do, we'll do For Your Glory. All right. So we got that here. And so I've got that with the, this is what it looks like, right? So it's got a transparent background, semi-transparent. And if I want to add a looping video to the background, I've got one called YOLO Box Files. This is right off my computer. And so let's say I wanted to have this one. I just simply click it and it'll play and it just loops. Okay, so I just clicked on it from my media tab and it just automatically loops. And you saw it stutter right there. That's where it starts to loop. And it'll just loop through, right? So you want your video to be as seamless as possible for that loop, but when you click it, it'll just loop, all right? And he says, I tried adding a video as a media background on a template slide, but it didn't work. No, I wouldn't add it as a template. That's a good point. So going back to what I said about keeping it simple, right? So it makes sense. I feel you on making it be a part of your template because you want it to be a default thing, right? What I found works best, for me at least, to control it is to make my templates just have the way I want to format the text. That's it. If I make my template how I want to format the text, so I can change the way the text look at any time, but it doesn't stop the loop because they're not connected, right? And so that's something I had to wrap my mind around, kind of like what you're dealing with now. Don't make your backgrounds be a part of your templates and it'll simplify things for you because now you have that flexibility. There's a lot of programs out, right? So this is the Garry version. So I like to get the Garry version on things. So it's the simple version. It's the way I think. There are a lot of programs that are designed to simplify by controlling your access and your ability, right, to use it, right? And I would say that's not a bad thing because it makes for a very user-friendly interface, but it's very limited. I would say OpenLP is similar to that for me, right? It was easy to use, very easy to understand, but it was very restricted, very limited, but very powerful, right? I still like it. I would recommend it if I didn't use FreeShow. I would still recommend OpenLP. But then you got other programs like ProPresenter. I would say FreeShow falls into that as well in the sense that it's designed the opposite, to where it's designed to keep the interface as simple to use so that you can not have any limits, right? And so I look at FreeShow as a limitless program, and the only limit is what questions can we solve? What problems can we solve with it? So I can make as many videos as I want to, but I'm going to run out of problems. I'm going to run out of questions, and that's where you all come in to help ask some questions that I won't even consider. And so I appreciate that. And so I would keep my videos out of the templates, make them just be formatting your text, right? And so this is, for example, I actually have this particular format. It has my text and it has a logo and a background to it. And if you like that, you can go to my website, Garry B. Jr., if you haven't already, GarryBJr.com, and download it for free. But it's just a way for me to format my text and this logo, but I still have that background image back there moving because it's not a part of the template, all right? And so you want to make sure your media stays separate from your templates because then you can still control and navigate like I'm doing. I'm literally changing the way this song is playing, but the background looks completely separate because it is. It's moving all by itself consistently. And that's something that you want. Like I told you earlier, we want to be invisible. We want to be ninjas. We don't want people to know that we're here. We don't want to interfere with the flow. And having a seamless looping background is a great idea, but you don't want it to be tied to your template because if you got a lyrics template and then you switch to scriptures, it could interfere because now you're jumping and changing the background. You don't want to do that, right? So if I go and I start sharing a scripture, if I go to scriptures right now, I've got this background playing, and let's go to scripture here. And I've got this scripture yellow that I made. I think that was from another video that we made last week. And so if I go and I just double click, check it out. The background is still there. It never changed, but I'm changing now. I'm showing scriptures instead of the lyrics. but that's why you want to keep your background separate from your template. All right. Let me know if that makes sense. Is it possible to connect OBS to FreeShow? Definitely, for sure. So let me go back. There was another question from YWT Stewart. Hey Gary, shout out from the Netherlands. I'm trying to switch between more efficiently between scriptures and images. What kind of images are you trying to put in there? YWT Stewart. What kind of images in terms of, are they slides? So for example, let me go to I think I got a slide showing here that has some images. Let me see. That one doesn't. No, I don't think so. And so when I think about images, here we go. Cameras. Okay, so here's some images. All right. And so you said you're trying to figure out how to switch between more efficiently between scriptures and images. All right. And so that's a good point because, like I said earlier, for me, I've simplified the process to where I keep the scriptures separate even from my show. And I like to navigate all my scriptures down here from the scripture tab, and I just set up how I want it to look, and I can keep my images here, right? So if I click on this image, boom, it's there. And then when I'm ready to show a scripture, I would just dial it up in terms of searching for it. So let's say I want to do Romans 12:1, right? And so I've got that. I would just double click it here. And then it shifts and brings that up. That's a good point. So then you would just have to hit remove the background and it'll go away that way. That's one way to do it. I'm trying to think about the other way that would be even more seamless because, like you said, it'll run into where that becomes the background. The other way you could do it is to, in your scriptures, you can set it up to where it does not allow for a background, I believe, in the style. Let me see. This is scriptures yellow. All right, so I'm going to go to styles for primary. Let's see. Let me do my output. This output for primary is set to a default style. All right. If I go to styles, and so I've got for default, I don't have anything special in terms of the way it works for the style. So you can make it to where active layers are background, slide, and or overlays. And you can also override a slide with a template with a certain style. And so, for example, when I stream scriptures, I always default on my stream to making sure that the slide template for regular slides is the lyrics with the logo, lower thirds. That's what LT is. That's my version of it. And then LT scripture with a box for any scripture templates, right? And so if you go back to my show, I got a scripture here. Let me hit S. All right, so in my stream, you'll see that this is the scriptures with the box, and that's what it defaults to. And the way I did that was I set it up to where it does not carry over the background, right? So if I go back to my settings and I go to stream, notice that the background does not stay active on that particular slide. So let's go back to this. All right, so I'm going here. I got an image showing the slide, but I want to shift to a scripture, and I'm just going to keep it to be a blank one. You can make a template in this case if you want. You can make a template that does have a background with it, and it'll kind of lock in. But I'm going to go to my scripture yellow on my primary output. I'm going to make that be my default style for scriptures. So I'm going to go to here. So if I go to my outputs, the reason I'm going to that is set to default style. I go to styles, my default style. I'm going to go with override scripture with the template of, I think it's called scripture yellow. All right, boom. And I'm going to say no background active for that particular one. So let's see what happens. If I go here, it kind of locks that up. If I go here, it shows up and it brings it in, but that's not what I wanted to do. So let's go back and try it again. Let's see. So we can keep the background there. you will probably have to make a template that has the background, because that's not going to do it. Let's do, I'm going to just turn this off. Let's bring it back. Oh, no, I take that back. I'll keep it as scripture yellow, but I'm going to go to my show and I'll update my scripture yellow template. All right. So I got the scriptures and here's the template. Let's right click on that, click edit. And let's say for this, I will go to media and I've added a media. All right. And then you go to media up here and you would pick which file you want it to be. And you can pick some kind of background. So let's say I want it to be this background. And I want to make it fill the screen. So I can pull that in. And there's a lot of ways to do this. This is just an example. This is the first thing that comes to my mind when I do it, when I think about it. All right, so we go here, and then I'm going to pull up the two text boxes to be on top of that, right? And so there's that. And so now, when I go to show, when I go to scripture, it shows up here. I got a video or image there, so I can go back to my image. It shifts out, but I've got the template for scripture yellow, which looks kind of goofy because it's yellow on yellow. Don't worry about that. And I can go back to another scripture and it switches out, right? Now, if you're saying that you want to look more efficient in terms of the way the transition looks, that's another part. So we go back to our settings and we can go to under style. So I got my default. It's going to scripture yellow and then change transition, all right? So it transitions in, out, and between. I've turned off my between, and then on media, if you go to enable more specific, it doesn't even have anything like that. So you might say, okay, I want it to just not have any on the in or the out, okay? No transition in or out. And then we can say, okay, and let's see how it flows, if it flows any better. That to me was a more seamless transition. Let's exit out. All right, so now we go back to a scripture. Go there, we go back to a picture, and it flows. I'm just looking at this box here. All right, so that's one way to do it. The other way to do this involves actions, and I'm not mastered my actions yet. So I'm gonna turn off this default for my base, my primary, because I don't want that to be the main thing. All right, and I'm gonna go back to that template and undo that template. That would be one reason to make a background on your template, is all I'm saying, okay? Uh-oh. I want to unlock that. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to my media. I'm gonna delete that because I don't want it. I'm gonna keep everything the same. All right. The next way you could do this is you can set like an action, I believe. Let me go to here. All right. And so you could say we would need basically to clear background with the scripture. And so let's see if we can go to our functions and actions. I got a clear background there, but let's see here. Name, let's see here. Clear back on script. All right, start action is we're looking for clear background. So tell me if you look. Tell me if you guys see it. Yeah, I'll probably be able to say it before I look up. All right, so here's clear background. All right, and then the custom activation, we would pick, let's see if there's a way we can do it when background is clear. All right, activate when scripture is started. All right, and so that's the action, and I can close that, and it's called clear background on script. The cool thing is you can go to your, is it shows? Yeah, so you can actually drag or create. So I can right click on this and I can say category action. I've got a stream scripture to stream option, but I can change that and I can pick another one that is called clear back on script. All right. And so we're going to close that. All right. So the way that should work, look, hypothetically real time. So I got some slides with some pictures going, and let's see here. Got pictures, that's fine. Now I'm going to go to a scripture and it should clear it out, right? So basically what we did is I set it up to where anytime that we start a scripture from down here, okay, with a scripture template, okay, it will make the background go away. And I can go back and it makes the scripture go away and I can go back to my images. So this was the question of, is there a way to better make the background go away? And let me see, who asked that? Oh, having the lyrics slide. No, that's not with the looping background. We already talked about that. Oh, switching between. So YWT Stewart, how to switch between more efficiently between scriptures and images. That would be my recommendation, is to have an action. And you can do actions in a number of different ways. There's a guy on Reddit. What's he go by? He is like the action master, right? You can go to the Reddit FreeShow stream or app, Reddit feed, and you will find he can give you all kinds of answers to anything that has to do with actions. And I'm like, wow, I never thought about that. And so that's one way that I would consider to do it, is to just set up an action for the whole category that has to do with scriptures, to where it just clears the background for you, even if you have an image, so that way it doesn't keep that background image. Now, the downside of that is, if you do want to keep the background image, it's there, right? It's going to be locked in for anything that you show that's got a scripture. And so you want to be mindful and careful of that, because there's a lot of ways to approach this. And like I said, FreeShow is limitless. With the scriptures, my preference is the simpler background, the better. So completely blank, I work with a lot of ministries where they just prefer it to be a black background, and that's their staple. They like it like that. I've grown to like it that way too. So I don't like a fancy background behind my scriptures. Maybe during worship, that's fine with the fancy background. I got those little grunge backgrounds and stuff like that, and that's fine. But for scriptures, I like it to be completely plain so people can focus on the word, and that's fine, right? So that's a way to do it if that's what your goal is as well. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. Does that NDI needs a subscription or is it free? Holy Mark, NDI tools are completely free, no subscription. I don't even think you have to give an email address for those. You literally just download the tools, whether you have a Windows or a Mac or a Linux computer, and then you just open up whichever one of those, install them, obviously, once you download, and then you would just open up the monitor tool. If that's the one you need to use, they got another one. Look, let me see. If I search my computer and just type in NDI, they've got the virtual input. That's crazy. I say crazy. It's really cool. It's a good thing. And then they've also got the video monitor, the NDI launcher. They got a test patterns, access manager, and those all came with the tools. The ones I've used most are the monitor and the virtual input. Okay. And so those are your options with the NDI. Yes, they are completely free. Let's see here. Unique said, try adding a video as a media background on a template slide, but it didn't work. We talked about that. Is it possible to connect OBS to FreeShow? Yes. So when it comes to OBS and FreeShow, got a number of different ways you can do it. If you actually use OBS, this will make sense, because I'm gonna probably glaze over this fairly quick. I don't use OBS a lot, but I used to use it all the time, right? With some of the local ministries I work with, that was literally our main way to set up our live stream, was here, right? And so apparently there's an update. I haven't even done an update on OBS in a while, apparently. And so let's say you wanted to use OBS with FreeShow. The best way, I say the best, there's a lot of ways. So let's do, first thing, with OBS, there's a thing called NDI output settings. So OBS works with NDI. So you can actually set up OBS to be an output to go into FreeShow if you wanted to. That's a whole nother story. But that's a way. But it also has a way to take NDI as an input. All right. So I'm going to get rid of these. I'm not even going to act like they're there. But we're going to say I want to receive an NDI source. All right. And so I'm going to call this stream FreeShow. And I'm going to just say, okay. And I've actually already got those, but I got them backwards. So that's good. All right. So now I'm going to pick a source, and it's going to show all of my NDI options that I've already set up as outputs in FreeShow. And so I'm going to pick the stream one, and it's okay. And then it pops up, and it's huge. And so I'm going to right click and transform, and I'm going to say fit to screen. All right, so I got it fitting to screen. And I'm gonna go back now. Let's look at FreeShow. And notice my stream is completely blank. All right, so let's go to scriptures. Let's add a scripture. And let's see if that scripture shows up in OBS. And there it is, right? So I've got NDI right here as a feed. So I got my, I got another action on here to make that go away after a certain number of seconds. So, all right, that's all that was. But so I've got NDI, FreeShow sending an NDI signal out. I've got OBS picking up that signal because I went down here to the plus sign and I said an NDI source. So that means it's going to look for something that's sending a signal as a source to receive it. And I picked my stream from FreeShow, and there it is right there. And so if I had a camera, let's see, I don't know what camera this is. Let me look at the properties of it. That's my iPhone. Let's do FaceTime. All right, so I'll say okay. And so I'll activate the video capture here, transition it. And so now you can use OBS with the lower thirds, in my case, because I picked that one. But I could easily make this just be my full slide, right? So my full slides, let's go to, let's go to Media Monday, right? So what these slides look like. So these are completely blank. I'm gonna put a background on it. I'm gonna go to Media, and let's pick one of my grunge backgrounds. I like that one, that'll work. I'll just pick that one, all right. So, I'll keep that just like that. And so I'm gonna go here. And so this is what it looks like in FreeShow. Now, if I go back to OBS, I'm still only streaming the stream output. That's the one I selected. But I can go to OBS and I can right click on this and change the properties of it to say, I don't want to stream the stream one. I want to get the NDI feed from the primary. So I would go down here and I would pick primary. And then I say, okay. And guess what happens? It shows up the primary feed, not the, so my camera that I actually activated in OBS is getting covered up because I've got this FreeShow primary over the top of it. And I can transition it and it's just, it's there, right? And so you can literally go through your slides. I don't think I can make these be next to each other, but let's see. Yes, I can't, but I can exit full screen. All right. And let's see if FreeShow can get smaller. I don't think, oh, it can. Look at that. All right. I'm trying to make these windows be side by side. And I've never done that with these two programs. All right. So in FreeShow here, and I can't even see, but I'll go here. So I'm in FreeShow. When I go to the next slide, it automatically changes in OBS. And that's all through, and I'm just using the arrows on my computer. That's all through NDI. So it's sending a signal from FreeShow through my network on NDI. And then OBS is found that source, and I pointed it to it and said, I want you to pick up the primary source from FreeShow and put that in OBS. What I used to do with the ministry I was at before, we would actually use this as a virtual cam, right? So we would say start virtual cam, and then we would just log into Facebook and make OBS be our webcam. And we would just stream all of our scriptures and stuff like that. We would put our cameras into OBS in terms of picking them up and connecting them to the computer. And we would just do like I just did a video source here. And we would manage the whole Facebook live stream from OBS. And we would get our signal from, at that time, I think it was OpenLP. And we would use NDI to get that signal from OpenLP to OBS. And we would do this. And we would manage, somebody would be managing the slides. So they would be over here managing the slides and going from one slide to the next, pulling up the scriptures in their computer on OpenLP. And then somebody else was on OBS and they were making sure that the virtual camera was streaming to Facebook and they would make sure that it was showing up on OBS. All right. So that's how you would do OBS. Let's see here. Let's see. I'm looking at the comments before we wrap up here. So is it possible? Absolutely. Unique is, how do you update the free show? Been getting an update prompt, but I don't want to lose stuff after installing the new downloaded version. Good question. So what I would say, Unique, is they are working to do another update. I've been talking with the support team on Reddit. You can go there as much as you want. I go there pretty regularly. I ask a lot of questions on there from you guys. You guys help me out with a lot of questions to ask them. And then my goal is to simplify it and make a video that makes sense to for people to use it, to put it into place, because I do think FreeShow is just a great tool. I don't work for FreeShow. That's not how it works, but I really do enjoy using it, and I appreciate their team. They got a really strong team of developers and support, and just a good community around this program. So that's something that I'm just a part of that community now, right? But I would wait and maybe to the end of this week. I think they said there's going to be another update. But if you want to update it, you won't lose anything, okay? Because I did update mines. If I go to FreeShow and you say about, I'm at 1.3.5. I'm guessing by the end of the week, there'll probably be a 1.3.6. But if you wanted to update, I would just go to the website and just hit download and just download it and install it again. And it'll ask you, do you want, on a Mac, it'll ask, do you want to replace? And you just say, yes, replace. It doesn't make you lose any of your data files in terms of shows or scriptures, templates, or anything like that. So you don't have to worry about that. It literally is just going to replace the old interface with the new interface. And they've got a lot of cool changes that I enjoy, right? So one of the things I like is when I go into, let's say I wanted to change this particular media backdrop, right? And you go to edit and you go to filters. They got these sliders now. So I can slide, which you couldn't do before. It used to just be, you had to hit the plus sign and you had to keep hitting that, or you can click in there and type, right? This makes it more like a Lightroom program or something like that, where you can just slide things to the left and to the right. And that really is cool. And once they get some more updates and finalize it, there were some bugs I ran into. So I'm not recommending you update to 1.3.5, but by the end of the week, I'm guessing they'll probably have another version updated to get rid of the bugs I've found. That's the thing. Like I said, I love that. You can't do that with ProPresenter or OpenLP or something like that and get that type of response. But this team is very, very dedicated to making this a great program, and I love that. And so that's one of the things that stood out to me in the update so far. There's a lot of things I'm sure that they've done. I have to go back and research, but my first goal was to make sure that I could get a reliable update and start making tutorials for it. And when I started running into some bugs and areas, I just shared it with them, and they were able to start working on those. And they've already fixed a couple of them with the update as it is. And so my expectation is they'll probably have another one later on based on what they've told me. So hopefully that's helpful for you guys on this Media Ministry Monday. I know this is new. I don't know how often I'm going to do it yet. I'm working on doing an actual real launch. You guys have just been supporting the goal overall. The goal is just to help equip the nations with a better way to present the gospel, right? And we know that technology, we know that media in this communication age that we live in is key. And so every ministry nowadays, no matter how big or how small, are going to find value in having up-to-date presentations, up-to-date technology and software. And I love that FreeShow is making it available even more on a more wide scale for being free. And so I'm just here to help push that movement to say, hey, the gospel is being told and being shared, and everybody's got a phone these days to where they can actually pull up the Bible if they want to. But when they go to fellowships and they go to services, they're expecting technology as well. And so I know you all are feeling it and trying to keep up with technology and use up-to-date tools and products and software. And so my goal is to help equip you to be able to do that and use that at a high level. All right. So until next time, I'm Gary. Thank you for joining me on this Media Ministry Monday. That's a tongue twister. And so hopefully we'll be able to do this soon, at least once a month. I'm not sure if it'll be weekly yet, but we'll see. Depending on the demand, I'll probably put out a survey or something like that to get some more feedback from you guys. But thanks for joining me, and I look forward to connecting with you next time.